Hi everyone, welcome back to another studio vlog. If you watched my previous vlog, you will have seen me throw these pieces on the wheel. So this is the next day, trimming the pieces once they're kind of leather hard, because that's the state that they like the best to be trimmed in. And you get these beautiful ribbons coming off. So it's a mixture of plates, vases, and my teapot pieces as well, and some mug bodies that I am trimming. At this point in the month, I was very much looking towards the Harvest Festival at the Hepworth Gallery, as I needed to make a lot of new stock for this event. I wanted to showcase my new ceramics as well, which is why I've been kind of focusing a lot on throwing things on the wheel and getting a lot of pieces made for this. So this is me just trimming the lid on top of the teapot. It does look really small. I think in future I will make a larger teapot, but I think for my first one, going small was probably best. Definitely, I think it would probably only fit like a cup of tea for one person, but anyways, that is something to look forward to. So this is me just attaching all of the pieces to it. This is the spout. I wanted to make sure I got it lined up right and put the holes in for the straining, and then of course attaching it by scoring and slipping, and then adding some extra clay around the edges and just blending that all in to make it look really seamless. And then once I'd done that, it was time to add a handle. I'd pulled these a little bit earlier in the day, so they were kind of slightly drier than freshly pulled, but looking back, I'm not happy with this handle. I think I did end up straightening it a little bit after I'd finished making the pot and attaching a little mushroom to the little top as well, a little nice feature. And then I decided I wanted to add some handles to a mug and also this little bud pot that I'd made, but it ended up not working out too great and I wasn't very happy with it, so I just scraped it back. And then this is me just putting all of the trimmings into my recycling bucket. I do this everywhere I can to recycle as much clay as possible, so this clay will kind of essentially melt down into the rest of the clay, and then I will put it on the plaster slab and then it will dry out, and then I can ball it up and reuse it all over again. I was getting very nervous at this point for the Harvest Festival, as it was only a couple of weeks away, and I knew that I needed to make as many pieces as I could and make sure that I had enough stock to be able to fill the whole table with beautiful prints and ceramics. Mainly are the two things that I was bringing. I was really lucky that my studio neighbour, who lets me use her kiln, was going away for a little while, so it meant that I had time to let everything dry out and pop it on some bisque firings while she was gone, which was really helpful, because I was obviously very nervous but also very excited for the Harvest Festival. I definitely think I'm slowly but surely getting better at ceramics. I think it's definitely a process. It's definitely a skill that you need to kind of build up over a long period of time. Here's those pieces, just putting them on the shelf, ready to leave them to dry fully before I could put them on a bisque firing. And this is me just wedging up some of the recycled clay that I had sitting out already for, I think it was about 3 or 4 days. Sometimes it takes different amounts of time for the clay to dry out to a good stage to be able to ball it up. It kind of varies a lot depending on the weather. If it's kind of cold, it'll obviously take longer, but if it's kind of warm, it will be faster. So this is me attempting to spiral wedge and just checking if there's any air pockets or how blended the clay is. My recycled clay is now actually a mix of buff stoneware and speckled buff, and that's just because it would be quite difficult, I think, to keep them separate all the time, and it would mean I would have to have different kind of buckets for different types of clay. So it's almost like its own mix in the end, between the buff and the speckle, and it kind of it looks more like the buff when it fires, just the recycled stuff, but it does have a couple of speckles. So yeah, I think in the near future I'm looking to do some ceramic workshops in my studio, so yeah, let me know if you guys might be interested in that kind of thing. My shelves were so full at this point, ready to put a load of firings on, but I wanted to make sure I could fill the whole kiln. I then went to go drop off one of my textile banners at the Mill Gallery for an upcoming exhibition which was called Protest and Pride, and it was all about various artists exploring themes of kind of protests, whether that's through environmental, political, social action, and kind of the ways that they were expressing this through art. So it was a lovely, lovely open evening, and I got to meet so many wonderful people working in different art forms, and it was just such a nice experience, especially because my banner's not been exhibited since my degree show, which was in 2023, before I graduated. So yeah, I definitely recommend going to check out the space. We had a look at the shop as well, which was lovely, and yeah, really excited to see what upcoming events they have in the future. The next day I went back to the studio and I worked on getting my shop ready to go. It is live, it's been live for a month or so now, so if you do want to go check out my work, there's all of my prints and ceramics up there. I'm always updating it with new stuff, sticker sheets and things like that, and as well as all of my zines as well, so feel free to go have a look at what I have and consider supporting a small artist. All of the ceramics I've made for the Harvest Festival will be up there very shortly, but at this point in time they were obviously still being made and I hadn't done the festival yet, so yes, keep an eye out for that. I will let you guys know when they're up there. I then spent some time glazing some of my mushrooms. These ones are the fly agarics, so that is just the red and the sort of cream glaze that I use. This one has some really lovely dark speckles and I really like the kind of effect it produces when they're fired. Glazing takes quite a long time because you do have to layer up your glazes, and usually I'll do 3 layers by default for kind of the brightest colours and the best results. Don't ask me why I was doing this on my laptop, I was risking it, very, very silly, but yeah, please don't do that. Don't do glazing on technology. What am I doing? I was sort of working on everything in between the stuff that I had going on at work, so yeah, just making time on an evening and on a weekend just to come in whenever I can and make the use out of the space as and when. But yeah, I've been really, really happy with my studio so far. It is quite a small space and I think I'm probably paying the least amount of rent and have the smallest space in the whole building, but I think maximalizing your use of it is really, really important. So, you know, I've got shelves up for everything, kind of like storing things, as well as like having my dedicated like throwing area and recycling area for the clay is really important. So yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about kind of maybe expanding into a larger studio perhaps, but I think for now, especially given like financial stuff, I'm gonna stick it out and stay in this smaller space just to myself and yeah, see how things go. Who knows, maybe in a year's time I might be able to afford a larger space and kind of spread out a little bit more, but yeah, we'll see. And then I went on holiday to London and Brighton, but before that I had coated some screens and I'd kept them under this sort of like dark fabric that I use for printing on, and that was kindly donated to me by a friend, so I wanted to make sure that they stayed in complete darkness whilst I was away, so they obviously didn't start exposing. I don't know how it works with like LED lights that we have like as the main lighting in the studios, but I didn't want to chance it, so I covered them up. So after we got back from our holiday, I decided to expose my screens again, give it another go, perhaps with a longer exposure time. But yeah, I can't lie, I've been having some real issues trying to get this to work in my studio. I think it's because I've still not quite figured out how long I need to kind of have the UV light on for the best results. This time I did remember though to add the layer of plastic over the top just to keep the positive really, really flat on the surface of the screen, because this is something that I didn't do last time and it definitely really affected the results of it. So once I got that all lined up, I could then turn the light on, and I think I probably did it for like 2 or 3 minutes this time, which I still don't think was long enough, because as you will see when I start washing it off, the design doesn't really reveal itself very well. I'm open to hearing some tips if anyone who's watching has a UV light that they use to expose their screens at home. I currently don't have the financial ability to invest in an exposure unit, so I've got to do it on this kind of DIY budget scale at the moment. But yeah, it definitely was not releasing from the screen. It kind of just was very, you could see the design, but there was too much emulsion kind of still there. So I think definitely a longer exposure time would be better. But yeah, I was scrubbing away for ages, and if you've ever made a screen before, you shouldn't do this, and you shouldn't need to. The design should just kind of like wash away really easily, kind of on its own. But I kind of mentioned in previous videos, I literally do not have access to any kind of specialist resources or even a large sink, so I do it all out of this like tub, because yeah, there's not a sink big enough in the building, which is great. Who knows, maybe one day they'll put one in for me, so I can wash my screens out, or even a washout booth, but you know, we can only dream, I guess. So yeah, this one definitely did not work very well. The only bits that kind of came off were the top bits, and I scrubbed the bottom for like ages and nothing was happening. So I just decided, right, fuck it, let's just take this off. Let's remove the emulsion and try again another time. So yeah, again, I'm using the screen strip stuff I've kind of talked about in previous videos. Often I'll just like sprinkle some on my sponge and kind of dab that on both sides before going in with more of the sponging, just to kind of like get all of it off. But this works really well, especially just after you have kind of exposed your screen, because it's not been sitting around for like weeks and weeks. I find that if you try and use this screen strip after you kind of left the screen sitting for a long time, it's definitely not as effective. So it's important that I did this on the same day, just to kind of like make sure it was okay. And then after I'd cleaned it all off, I then changed the water and used some clean water, and then I let that one sit and dry. And I had another go, because I had two screens to attempt at using this time round, and yeah, I think I tried a longer exposure time. This was more like 4 or 5 minutes, I believe, off the top of my head. But again, I was having a similar thing where I was just like scrubbing a lot and nothing was really happening in terms of being able to see the design like fully through the screen. You kind of want the design to be, well, you want it to be the same colour as the screen itself, like without any emulsion. So for this one, because it's a textile screen, it needs to be like fully white instead of this kind of like murky bluey grey sort of thing that I've got going on. Yeah, so more scrubbing. I think this took me like 15-20 minutes. I was just sat here scrubbing, hence why I've sped it up for you. And I just nothing was really working. I was scrubbing away and feeling quite frustrated that it wasn't working. So yeah, as I said earlier, any kind of tips, advice that you guys might have for this would be much appreciated. I think I might need to try having the UV lamp itself a little bit closer to the screen. I'm going to try that next time, position it lower down and see if it works any better. But yeah, I think I hear that generally is overexposure better? No, hang on, that might be cyanotype. Anyway, I just need to keep going, keep persisting, and one day I will get it absolutely nailed in my studio and I'll be able to make screens very easily. But yeah, I only have the two, so I do have to kind of like switch them out, and if I want to try them again. Thank you so much for watching. You can check out my other videos here and go check out my shop in my bio. See you later.